Coming from pretty much a family of food, my mother was a phenomenal cook in the kitchen, but more so my father, the Peet side of my family, we owned and operated about a 120-year-old meatpacking facility in Chesaning, Michigan. All the way up to like the early 90s, it was the largest independently owned meatpacking facility left in the country. It was actually in the Baltimore Sun when it happened.
No.
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal. Anyhow, so food's been in the family. You know, we don't come from a very big family. I just have one brother, and then my mother had two brothers, and my father had two sisters. So we grew up, you know, family holidays, everybody cooked, and you know, we didn't go out much. You know, came from a very hardworking blue collar family, and we had everything we needed. Big garden. My mother grew all the vegetables all summer long, and then my father, you know, would bring stuff home from work, what was ever left or what he could scrounge up, and I did. I'm a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America. I graduated October 18th of 2002, went right out of high school, and then I was headed back to Chicago where I did my internship at a restaurant called Green Dolphin Street, and I also staged at Charlie Trotter's, which I ultimately took a full-time job with before I went back to culinary school to finish. I was headed to come right back to Chicago, ultimately probably end up back at Trotter's. And then I was, 4 days before graduating, David McCallum and his sous chef, who had owned Tillman Island Inn at the time, mind you, recruited me and said, come down, check out what we have. We need a sous chef, da-da-da. Harbor Springs is exactly like St. Michael's, my hometown. Very small town, on the water, seasonal, sailing community, boating community. So I came down, checked it out, fell in love. I was like, why don't we just stay here? I went from Tillman Island Inn, and then I became Chef Salter's executive sous at Perry Cabin, and I was there for 7 years under him, who's a dear, dear friend of mine, and I speak to almost weekly, if not daily. And from there, I worked for Chris Agarabi, and I joined his team probably like a year and a half or 2 years after he'd had Ava's, and I became his general manager at Ava's for a while. So traded in the chef's shoes for some, you know, some loafers, and I did that for a while, and then ultimately opened Theo's right next door for him. And I became the executive chef there with Phil Lind, who's our chef de cuisine at Bas Rouge right now. And then we ran that for a couple of years, and then Mr. Prager started kind of getting after me pretty hard, and he was like, yeah, whenever you're ready to make a move, I'm ready to do this. And you know, mind you, at the time, he was not in the restaurant business. He had commercial property, but he didn't have anything operating yet, so the kind of founding team were Matt Mason and myself. So we kind of realized Mr. Prager's vision of Bluepoint Hospitality in the beginning. And it's been a wild ride ever since. Here we are 10 years later. We have the original three were to open simultaneously: yoga studio, juice bar, which is Bumblebee Juice, and then Sunflowers and Greens, the salad bar. And it was going to be this whole, you know, kind of higher end, super curated wellness corner. And then we got that off the ground, and he was like, we're not stopping. The whole thing is just evolving all the time. You know, it's just like fashion. It's just like anything else. There's trends, and there's, you know, there's things that you need to keep up on, ingredients, and, you know, sustainability is huge. And that's one thing that we really pride ourselves on. I work very close with Nick Hargrove, the owner, operator, creator of Wild Diver Oyster Company down in Whitman Wharf Seafood. I've known Nick for 22 years now. He was one of the very first people I ever met when I moved here. And he's doing all this catfish, you know, all these grants with the governor to do the invasive species with the catfish. So we try to incorporate all of that, you know, working with all local farmers. Sustainability, moving forward in our profession as far as hospitality, is really going to be the only thing that's going to keep us alive. You know, everything gets so expensive. Everything gets harder to source. You know, the next new items are coming out, but you have to really be careful on the trains that you hop on, because they can be a dead end real fast. So you always have to have an exit plan as far as, you know, okay, how are we going to curb this? You know, this fish is overfished. These, you know, the things like that. So, you know, everyone wants rockfish, everyone wants oysters, but we have to be very mindful of where these come from and the people that are harvesting them and putting food on their table for their children. And, you know, so it's a huge snowball. And as an executive chef, that is probably, besides staff, one of the hardest things to keep a constant eye on and to maintain in its own sustainable way. I'm very lucky to be in the positions I'm in, and I'm extremely lucky to have somebody like Mr. Prager believe in me and his team. And I'm extremely lucky to have the team that I have and that I've worked hard to put together. You know, and when we launch something new, there's a little bit of everybody into that. And that is the best feeling that I have, is when we open something new, or a particular, you know, like when the wardroom is just buzzing and it's working and it's doing what it's supposed to do and the energy's right and the wine's flowing and the food's going. You can step back and you just watch everything happen like an orchestra. And, you know, and that's the magic for me. That's one cool thing about Bluepoint is, and that's what gives each entity its identity, is a team is in there doing exactly what they want to be doing in that entity, not worrying about anything else. As a young hospitality worker, you know, aspiring chef, when I was growing up, particularly in Chicago, Michelin wasn't a huge deal in my world until the last few years, to be honest with you. It was something that was there, people knew about it, but James Beard had always held the water, you know, like that's the one. So growing up and being in kitchens and then getting to Chicago, and I worked under a bunch of James Beard nominated guys and gals, and that was something that I remember, and I always thought to myself, the integrity of these people is amazing. The attention to detail, you know, working with sustainability, working with, you know, just down to the fact, treating dishwashers the same way as you treat your line cooks is the same way as you treat your, you know, your executive team. And that is what I remember specifically, you know, like wanting to be Chef Rick Gresh at Green Dolphin Street. He was nominated, I think, twice. And I just remember just watching him work with his team, watching him deal with everyday issues. You know, I was a young guy. I was in the kitchen, and we're just there doing the job, being crazy and having fun. And I thought to myself, you know, these are real people. This is real stuff. These are people in here doing real jobs, making money to support their families, start families, buy homes, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, everyone respects the hell out of this guy. I want to be like that. And ever since then, I was like, I think that James Beard would be the best thing in my life right now that could happen. And that was, you know, 20 years ago. And now having it happen, you know, it's an amazing, amazing achievement, but more so it's a testament to the team that's behind myself and Mr. Prager and Bluepoint Hospitality. You can't go anywhere without an amazing team. I like to surround myself with the same type of people that I like to be, you know, if that makes any sense. So James Beard in that fact is more of an accomplishment than anything. It's a recognition of the people. But over 8,000 applicants for Best Chef Mid-Atlantic, and here you're a member of an elite 25 person selection. How that speaks to them is through social media, articles, magazines, interviews. You know, you do have to do a bit of selling yourself. You have to believe in yourself. But you also have to be involved in the right things. And fortunately for us, being involved in the right things are all the things that I love, that I have a passion for. So it's all second nature to me. You know, sustainability has always been on my mind. You know, trying to make sure everybody has everything they need is always on my mind. Trying to be kind, being polite, making sure that you're giving the encouragement to the team. Those are all things that I do constantly because that's how I like to be treated. And I've been in some kitchens that just are not fun places to work. You know, the executive chef job isn't just some romantic thing where I come in and we get to cook food all day and it's fun. There's a lot that goes behind it that we're constantly trying to maintain. We have been selected, you know, Harley Peet has been selected as best chef Mid-Atlantic for Bas Rouge. And it's very unique that I'm the executive chef of a group that has so many different restaurants, and I don't have, you know, we don't have executive chefs for each one. I'm still the executive chef of the group, and we have CDCs throughout. So it gets a little wishy-washy, but it's 100% Bas Rouge. And that's kind of one negative about just being at one restaurant is, you know, Dave Neller's our chef de cuisine at the Stewart, and Jesse Wheeler's our chef de cuisine at Wardroom. We're all doing amazing things, and they're all doing just exceptional, you know, cooking and putting out great food and great service. People know if they pay attention and realize that this is all one group. They're like, oh, well, we can't go into Bas Rouge because they're booked, or maybe they don't want to spend that kind of money, or maybe they don't want to be committed to a tasting menu or something like that. They know they can get, you know, I'm up and down the whole block, so let's have some fun.